Another animated Miyazaki masterpiece. Let's talk about The Boy and the Heron. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watch Our Pass, and I've got my off-brand Miyazaki, I think cross Pokemon shirt, ready to talk to you about The Boy and the Heron, the brand new Miyazaki film that is being released in theaters on December 8th, 2023. It is an all-new feature from the acclaimed director. It is hand-drawn. It is coming to America finally with an all-new English voice cast. I saw it in Japanese with subtitles. It was a beautiful film. It was kind of classic trademark Ghibli animation. But my hot take is I actually think you should probably watch later. Now I'm redoing my ratings thanks to a comment from Evil, who has been following all my stuff. He made the perfect comment like, hey, rent doesn't really work in the streaming world. So I'm going to start doing it as like watch now, watch later, and pass on it. So for this one, my hot take is I think you should watch it later. Look, it is an imaginative, beautiful Ghibli film, classic Miyazaki with amazing animation and music, but it has kind of a messy story and a lot of like rules that aren't really fully explained. And it's a pretty slow start, slow overall story. So I didn't like this as much as I expected to. I was expecting to be blown away. I was expecting to love it. Look, it's another Miyazaki film. I'm excited. And it is a beautiful movie. But overall, I didn't love it as much as I was expecting. So I think you should check it out. But eventually, maybe when it comes to streaming, when it comes to a home format, then check it out. Then you don't have to rush out to theaters to see it. Oh, and also for kids, if you're wondering, hey, can I take my kids to see this? Or is it okay watching with my kids? I think it is. There really isn't much. There's a little bit of like fantasy elements and some violence, but not really anything you'd have to be too worried about. It's kind of in line with your like older Miyazaki films like Spirited Away, not like Princess Mononoke. That it is not that level of violence. It's more like a Spirited Away level. So it should be fine for kids as long as they're okay with a little bit of fantasy scares and things like that. So all that being said, I'm going to tell you a little about the film, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like. There won't be spoilers in this review, so you don't have to worry too much about that. You can keep watching this, and I'll just give you my thoughts. So in The Boy and the Heron, you have Mahito, who is this young kid whose mother tragically died right during the war. The factory that she was working in caught on fire. It went up really quickly. She unfortunately didn't make it. And now, years later, his father is moving him to another place in Japan to work at a different factory and kind of start a new life with his aunt, who is now apparently his wife. Now, this is a big change for Mahito. He doesn't really love it. But as with a lot of Ghibli films, it's like new fresh start out in the wilderness, out in like the Japan countryside, has a little bit more going on than we originally expect, and leads to a big adventure that could span both his world and maybe another one. So that being said, things I liked about this movie. The first, look, the animation, it is a classic hand-drawn Ghibli animated film. It looks gorgeous. It looks amazing. I've missed hand-drawn animation, and this looks fantastic. It looks in the similar style as other Ghibli films. It looks perfect. The characters are kind of a little cartoonish, but still have good expressions. The food looks fantastic. The fantasy world looks fantastic. The Japan countryside looks amazing. Overall, it is beautiful, gorgeous, gorgeous animation. The second thing I loved, the music. It has a really kind of understated music throughout. A lot of like piano and really light orchestral elements that both help to establish like the sense of loss that Mahito has, but also the like sense of wonder of being in this new environment, of this new world where he is kind of learning and exploring and trying to figure out what's going on. And the last thing I love, I like the characters. There are some really fun, interesting characters, especially the Heron. The Heron is kind of a more central figure. I mean, it's called The Boy and the Heron. I expected him to be a central figure, but the Heron has a lot of different kind of shades to it that were interesting to see. And the film, as it progresses, as with all Ghibli films, you meet a lot of very different characters, and each of them are fun and interesting and kind of contribute to the overall story. So, all that being said, remember I said it's a watch later. I didn't love it as much as I thought I would. Things I didn't love as much about this movie. The first, look, it is a very slow film. It has a very slow start, like a pretty exciting opening part, but then it goes really slow as this kid is exploring this world. It really takes a long time to get going. And then once it gets going, it is not kind of as exciting as I would have expected. I kept wanting it to kind of ramp up, and it eventually does, but it does, I don't know, a little bit too late for my taste. The second thing I didn't love as much, I'm going to say it's not as fantastical. It has fantastical elements, it has fun elements, but it is not kind of as big or grandiose or imaginative as other Ghibli movies. It has an overall imaginative premise, but for me, like, it felt a little bit more grounded in the real world than I would have expected. I wanted this to kind of go full on, I'll just go Spirited Away. Like, I love that movie. I wanted to go like full on Spirited Away, and it kind of kept one toe in the real world and one toe in this like fantasy world. So it didn't have as big of a fantasy world as I was kind of hoping. It didn't have as massive of a fantastical elements as I was expecting. And the last thing I didn't love as much, I'm gonna call it the rules. There are some like rules in this world, some rules in this story that I don't know, just they never felt like they were explained. It felt like something would pop up and you're like, oh, here's this new character that we didn't really ever know about. Oh, here's something that someone says, like, oh, you can't do that for some reason. Like we never figured out why. It feels like this film had just like too many like unexplained rules, unexplained story elements that made for kind of a choppy overall experience. It didn't feel streamlined. It didn't feel like I knew exactly what was going on or exactly what was happening. It felt like the story didn't like guide you through and give you a good sense of what was happening and why. It just kind of did. And it was imaginative. It was interesting. It was a grand adventure. But to me, the story was a little bit too messy, a little bit too unexplained to really love it. Now, all that being said, look, The Boy and the Heron, it's another Miyazaki film. It's another classic Miyazaki movie. So if you like Miyazaki movies, you will probably enjoy a lot of this. I didn't love it as much as I was expecting, but I did appreciate it. I'm glad it's out, and I'm glad that there's another Miyazaki film to kind of add to your catalog. So that is The Boy and the Heron. It comes to theaters on December 8th, 2023. Like I said, I think you should check it out eventually, but if you got and see it in theaters, let me know what you think. Let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.